What's up, OTG fans? Welcome to the NBA Outlet, presented by OTGBasketball.com. I'm your host, Nick Fay. With me again, Evan Dyal. What's up, Evan?
Hey, Nick. How's your playoff week going?
It's enjoyable. We've gotten a great first round, a lot of close games, a few blowouts, but we can't complain after last year. That's
true. Some very juicy series. Love Pels, Blazers, Sixers, Heat. I've been enjoying it.
Yeah, and big time performances. We saw Chris Paul last night step up, LeBron do his thing. So before we get started, just a quick reminder, you can listen to the NBA Outlet on iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, OTGBasketball.com, Google Play, and now airing on Dash Radio. We also did get some really sad news last night, and we give our condolences to Greg Popovich and his family. His wife Erin passed away, and it's super sad. It's just anytime anything like that happens, it kind of reminds you, we're just watching basketball and there's more to life.
Yeah, that's tough, and I believe he won't be coaching tonight, so it'll be interesting to see how the Spurs respond with that.
Yeah, it's definitely just it's a sad situation in San Antonio with that, and then obviously the whole Kawhi thing. So wish obviously Popovich the best. He's, even though he's mean to the media sometimes, he's probably one of the best role models in the NBA in terms of, speaking out about bad things that are happening around the world. But let's talk some playoff basketball. On a positive side, the Heat and Sixers play tonight, and we're going to talk about that series tied up 1-1. Probable Joel Embiid will come back. But what did you see in Game 2?
So what I loved about the Heat in Game 2 was just the ball pressure that they did on Simmons. And they got up and didn't let him just scan the floor or get a free pathway to the rim and kind of dared him to be a scorer. And he was kind of reluctant to do that at first. In the second half, he kind of took charge. And then the Heat, just tenacity on defense was great. Like Josh Richardson, they tried to post Dario up on him, and Richard was having none of it. James Johnson was just a Swiss Army knife on defense. And then we got the vintage Dwayne Wade performance on offense, which was just unreal. And we figured he would be good for at least one of those in the playoffs. And then mainly also Dragic, after a really bad first game, showed up. And it's going to show how tough the series is going to be for Philly, because Miami just presents a lot of problems with their defensive versatility, ball pressure, and length. And, of course, they're just super well coached. Yeah, I still like Philly, but it's going to be tough.
It is. And I think, this, you hit it right on the head. The aggression that Miami came out with, they were a lot more physical. They were into it. They got into Ben Simmons. Also, you mentioned Goran Dragic. He picked it up. Dwayne Wade. Both of those guys did a great job of attacking Philly's guards. When they played J.J. Redick, they played Marco Bellinelli. Dwayne Wade went at them. He felt confident, and that was big for them to kind of get some offensive going. And then the Sixers also, they just shot terrible from three. And, it's been a lot in the postseason. When a team shoots bad from three, it's really tough to win, especially when they rely on it a lot. They shot 7 of 36 in that game. Did you think that was more so Miami's defense or just Philly missing a lot of open threes or bad shot selection?
Of the three, I think it was mostly Miami's D, even though Philly did miss a couple of good looks. I remember Dario missed a couple wide open ones. Robert Covington was awful, though. He took some terrible threes, just super contested early in the shot clock. He needs to be better. But, yeah, Miami was just hugging the shooters, Ilias Bellinelli, and just daring them to put it on the floor, and I think that's the right move.
And you mentioned Richardson. He did a great job on J.J. Redick. He just really frustrated him. He blocked a few of his jump shots, which is tough to do, especially trailing off of screens. So that was impressive. I think we talked about in the previous episode, a lot of these guys need to step up for Miami, and they did. And that was big.
Yeah, Whiteside was still bad overall, but at least he was a little better than Game 1. Josh Richardson is could be my favorite player in the NBA. I want him on my team any day of the week. He's just incredible. Yeah, that block he had on Redick, I'm not sure how many defensive guards can make that play.
It's incredibly tough to, block a three-point shooter with a quick release, trailing on the play, coming off a screen with some good, some of the guys on the Sixers do set some good screens too. So, Richardson's probably up there in terms of defensive players, trailing off-ball defense. So that's impressive. That's what Philly's going to need to do. Miami's going to need to do again tonight. Play aggressive, not let the Sixers get into it. What do you expect to see in Game 3 that maybe we didn't see in Game 1 or 2?
Well, obviously, if Embiid plays, that changes everything. And I think even more so on defense, because he's such a good rim protector. that Miami is going to be forced to hit some tough jump shots. And obviously, they're not a very good shooting team, so that changes things a lot. A guy like Ellington, he hit a couple in game 2. He may need to get more hot. I'm not sure if you can count on that Dwayne Wade performance again. I would at least be shocked. And then on offense, Embiid is just nearly unstoppable, and he can open up things for the shooters a little more. They'll try to single guard him with Whiteside, but he's been so bad, I don't trust that. And then the Heat been going small a lot with Olynyk at center, and if Embiid's there, that's just you can't do that. Yeah, he's going to eat his lunch, so that limits their options.
Embiid definitely, I think, will be huge in this series. As long as he can play good minutes, him and Whiteside will probably get into it a little bit, but he's won that advantage every time this season. And like you mentioned, defensively as a rim protector, he's going to help a lot. James Johnson's not going to be able to get some of those easy layups where he kind of just like pushes off in the paint. Also, offensively, like you mentioned earlier on, they really put a lot of pressure on Ben Simmons and kind of force the ball out of his hand sometimes. Now he'll be able to get the ball to Embiid, work in the post, another scorer. Also, do you think we'll see more Markelle Fultz in this game? We didn't really see a lot of him in game 2. Do you think we'll see a little bit more? Only 5 minutes in game 2.
I actually think they may not play him and go more TJ McConnell, because TJ McConnell's the steady hand, while Fultz, you don't know what you're going to get.
It's like a wild card.
Exactly. So maybe if they need a little shot in the arm and they're down, they'll try Fultz out. But I think you may see a little more TJ's minute because he's super scrappy and he won't be as phased by the Heat's ball pressure.
Yeah, they're very true. And the game's most likely going to slow down with Embiid back. And Fultz is probably better off in more of a faster pace where TJ McConnell's that scrappy guy, hit the 3 ball a little bit better than Fultz, obviously. So, but like you said, if they do go down, they need that scoring punch. That's why I was kind of surprised we didn't see a little bit more of him in game 2. I thought they could have probably thrown him in there a few times to just give a little boost. Why not?
Yeah, I thought he would come back in the second half. He wasn't great, obviously, in his first minutes, but they had some brutal offensive stretches. So I thought maybe they give him a shot. So that may be one of the biggest questions for game 3 for me is just how much he plays and with who.
Moving on to the other game on Monday night, the Spurs and Warriors. Warriors are now up 2-0. They won 116-101. And again, Kevin Durant, Klay Thompson just cooked. 32 for KD, 31 for Klay. Both great shooting percentages. And the Spurs really don't have much of an answer for these two.
Yeah, I've been trying to search for answers the Spurs can do, and I'm running out. I mean, Klay Thompson I would try Murray on him a little more, but then that compromises your spacing and shooting on offense. They have just kind of too many one-sided players. They could do some good defensive lineups or good offensive. So, and then Durant, of course, has just been, after the last couple weeks of the season where he was just kind of just there, he's turned it on and been incredible. And the Spurs really don't have an answer for them. I thought the series would go 6 at the start, but it may be a lot sooner than that.
It's looking like a sweep, and I don't want to disrespect San Antonio, but KD's just dominant. They don't really have much to do. Klay, same thing. And like you mentioned, playing some of the smaller guards has hurt them, like I mentioned in the other episode. Playing a Mills and a Parker, some of these guys for Klay Thompson and KD, getting the switch on them is just, light work.
Oh my, yeah. Parker is just, on his
even
last
mono line. And Ginobili's been good, and he's had some nice, defensive plays, getting a steal there. But one-on-one against Klay Thompson or KD, they're still going to win that matchup too.
Yeah, no, and you can't ask mono to do that for the whole game, just little times here and there. So they're really they may have to let those guys get there and just hope the other guys don't get off. I still think they'll have the inspirational game 3 classic come back on their home court win, but I'm
Someone
not sure
needs to
after
step
that.
up big. And Aldridge stepped up big
one
in
of their
game
shooters
2.
needs to go off.
Yeah. They just need one Danny Green, not to throw shade at him, but 24 minutes, 0-3 from the field, minus 26. That's as bad as you're going to see from a Spurs player.
Oh, wow. That is not good. And you're right. Someone's going to need to step up, and Mills got to make some shots. Rudy Gay was all right, but he needs to be even better. They need someone who can score the ball, because right now outside of Aldridge, it's just been
They
nothing
need
on
like
offense.
Gasol to come in and get like super hot, like and turn back the clock like 5 years, like and just do something special. Because not only has it been, the guards, it's not like some of the bigs on Golden State have had a nice games too. Like David West hasn't been bad, McGee hasn't been bad, and that's an area where you kind of expect the Spurs to win, and it really hasn't been, a huge favor for them.
Yeah, when JaVale McGee outplays your bigs, things are not going well.
Yeah.
And so Gasol needs to definitely step up.
Anything you're expecting tonight other than just them stepping up for the game 3 to kind of get back in the series? Also, obviously, you expect them to step up for Popovich with the loss that he's suffering and come up with that big win. But anything else you expect tonight?
Even more Kyle Anderson minutes, I'm guessing. I still think he's the best Durant option. They play Manu even some heavier minutes because he's even been one of their best guards in the series right now. And then besides that, I'm not sure how many more options they have.
Yeah, like you mentioned, their roster, there's just not a ton they can do.
Yeah.
Now on to the Eastern Conference, Wizards and Raptors. The Raptors up 2-0. It looks like they're getting over their curse. They picked up the W 130-119, and it was pretty much a dominant win. The Wizards made a nice push in the fourth quarter, but the Raptors felt like they were going to win this one throughout.
The Wizards' defense was the most embarrassing defensive effort of the playoffs so far, especially in the first half. I mean,
44 points in the first quarter alone.
It was unreal, and especially from their bigs. I mean, Gortat got pulled immediately because he was bad at both ends. Imahimi was okay enough, but so bad on defense. It's gotten so bad that Scott Brooks is considering starting Mike Scott at center in Game 3. And they even pulled Ty Lawson from China and played him like 24 minutes and more than Porter. And I don't get it because I think they have better options to defend. They could play Satoransky a little more, move Porter to the 4. They could even go super small, Porter, Oubre. And I question a lot of their rotations and just their effort. And, of course, Beal was just awful.
Yeah, and you just question the whole team. We saw that picture. I think it was either game 1 or game 2. There's a picture of like Gortat and Wall arguing, and then Beal with a towel over his head, and just like you can tell things aren't working out. And Scott Brooks, like the lineups, the rotations have kind of been trashed. Like you're getting smoked. You need to just like start getting really creative. And like the whole thing with Otto Porter really confuses me. Like the Nets signed him to this big offer sheet, and you guys match it like saying you want to keep him, and then you only play him 23 minutes in the playoffs, only get him 10 shots and 12 points. Like, why are you not involving this guy more? He's probably one of the more efficient players in the NBA.
Yeah, and the Raptors are hiding DeRozan on him, who's a bad defender, and they're not even trying to go to him at all. And it's not like he's a go-to scorer, but he could definitely capitalize on that matchup more and deserves more minutes. He's their third best player. I don't get a lot of their decisions, and then when you combine that with their effort right now, I thought this would go 6 just because there is a good team in Washington just based on sheer talent and firepower, but the energy, the chi of that team is just off.
I like it. I like the chi of that team. Yeah, it's not working out. Just Wall and Beal alone should be enough to win you some games in a series, and they're just not performing. This is another team where they got a lot of money locked up in center. Gortat, Mahimni, and those guys are not playing well at all. And this one I'm probably hurts Wizards fans, but the pick they traded last year for Bojan Bogdanovic ended up being Jared Allen, who looks like a very nice center, would probably fit well in Washington. So it's just been
brutal.
It's been pretty bad for them. I don't know. Like, I expect them to turn it up when they get to Washington and maybe make this a series. But like you said, they got to make some changes. Mike Scott at center probably wouldn't be the worst thing because he's been really good off the bench for them.
No, I like Mike Scott, and he's at least active, and he's super confident, which I like. Like, he'll just take a shot, and he'll at least be aggressive, and he'll try.
He's got a little toughness, too.
Yeah, he's definitely got some toughness, and obviously there's some limitations there at center. That was just more just like a comment of the other bigs, but yeah, I would try him more. And just Ty Lawson was all right, but that was bold to play him that many minutes just fresh off that. And Satoransky, it's like they forgot how good he was when Wall was down. He needs more minutes too.
Yeah, I don't know. They got a lot of issues. Maybe they can make an adjustment before game 3. On to the next series, Milwaukee and Boston. Boston picked up a W in game 2, 120-106. Now 2-0 in the series. and pretty much it's looking good for the Celtics, who are the undermanned team, and Milwaukee just can't really get it together.
Well, you could tell Milwaukee was searching in game 2. They played 11 players. They played freaking Shabazz Muhammad.
I think they played 11 players starting in the first half too. Like, it wasn't even throughout the entire game.
I mean, they were throwing Dyal in there. I mean, everyone got a shot. So, I mean, they just don't know what their right lineups are right now, and they're searching for answers, and their defense was horrendous. I mean, they should not be giving up 120 points to that Celtics team. I mean, that's really bad. As we talked about before the show, I would bench Tony Snell. I would put Sterling Brown in them. I think he's a little tougher, a little more active, can at least, take a few more shots and have the defense respect him a little more. I would limit the Jabari Parker minutes for sure. I think they don't play – if they're going to play a center, they need to play Henson the most, and then they just got to roll their dice with Giannis as center. Not, for huge chunks, but as much as they can, because that is their most lethal lineup.
And honestly, what Boston would probably do if they put Giannis at center is match up Al Horford at center, most likely. And Giannis has been having to battle with him anyways. So it doesn't really it's not going to make him super tired. So I agree with that. You got to do some crazy stuff. Eric Bledsoe has been trash. And that whole thing after the game, they asked you, he says he doesn't know who Terry Rozier is. Like, bro, he just broke your ankles in game 1, hit a clutch 3 on you. He's been washing you the whole series. Like, come on, Eric Bledsoe, you need to be respectful.
I know. It's so disappointed. I wanted to be a Bledsoe believer, but there's so many times where he just doesn't bring in on either end for the amount of physical tools he has. He obviously needs to step up. I would try playing him with Brogdon a little more. I like that look with 2 ball handlers and another shooter. And then, for the Celtics, they're doing all the right moves. Horford's been great. Rozier's been great. Morris off the bench for some offense. They played less. I mean, they even gave the dancing bear Yabu some minutes.
Yeah. Dude, Brad Stevens will play anybody and he'll make it work. I think maybe the most impressive stat for the Celtics in game 2, 7 turnovers as a team. That's incredible, especially when you're missing your starting point guard and so many good players. To only have 7 turnovers, and that was an area we knew the Bucks really needed to capitalize on. They needed to force the turnovers, get the fast break points, get the team cooking, and the Celtics did a great job, especially in that second quarter of game 2, where in game 1 they kind of allowed Milwaukee to get in that game. In game 2 they protected the ball, and it really helped them down the stretch, and Milwaukee kind of got even more frustrated.
Yeah, Milwaukee was one of the best teams all year forcing turnovers. They absolutely thrive on it. And if Boston's only going to have 7, they'll win this easily. And then on the other hand, I think Milwaukee had like 20-something. I mean, it was getting
for
ridiculous.
Milwaukee.
15, yeah. I just remember a stretch where like Brogdon had like 3 in a row. And then it
felt like a lot of live ball ones too for Milwaukee, where Boston would just get easy buckets. Like Shane Larkin would get a steal and then just run it down for an easy layup. And from the Giannis and Middleton perspective, you can't really play much better than what they did in terms of offensively and shooting wise. Giannis had 30, Middleton had 25. They both shot ridiculous percentages from the field, only missed 4 shots each. I don't know what you do when you're those 2 guys. It's got to be super frustrating.
They've been great, especially Middleton. I mean, but
I love Middleton. I feel like he doesn't catch enough love around the NBA.
Yeah, I don't know why. He's super skilled and just a really tough player. But yeah, right now it kind of feels a little just 2 on like 5 and Brad Stevens right now.
Exactly. Shout out to the Boston side too. Jaylen Brown has looked super aggressive. I know game 1 he missed a lot of shots, but in game 2 he started to hit some of those shots. He really just got in the paint. He's just like an aggressive Mack truck coming at these wings. And you don't really expect it because it's fast twitch, snap of the finger, and he's already in the paint.
Oh, I love Jaylen Brown. And that was the other thing I was going to say. Milwaukee's treating him like he's freaking Tony Allen. Like he can shoot. He had all the time in the world, and I think he was almost 40% this year. And
he was right on if not 40%, he was right on the cusp.
And they're just letting him shoot, and it was unbelievable to me that they just couldn't make any adjustments, and they were daring him, and he made him pay to 30 points, I think.
Yeah, it's wild. And Al Horford obviously has been great, and he's another guy who doesn't catch enough love. But kind of like you hinted at, Brad Stevens had his fingerprints all over the series, and it's been such a huge advantage for Boston. What do you expect in game 3?
I think the Bucks will bring it in game 3, and they'll be back home. They'll be fired up. It's a good start. I think they'll win in game 3. I do think they'll make some lineup adjustments. Hopefully they don't. If they play 11 players again, it's probably not a good thing. Maybe shorten the rotation, a little less Jabari, more Brogdon, Bledsoe together. Hopefully Sterling Brown. And, the Celtics, there's going to be one night where they just don't shoot well, and I think it'll happen in one of those games in Milwaukee. So I think the Bucks should win this series, but I mean not the series, the game, but overall for the series, there's major concerns.
Yeah, they still probably have a shot in the series, I would guess, but it'd be tough. Like, they really need to turn around, and just the lack of shooters, I think, really hurts them, and Boston's just been killing them that way. But you're right. I think one game, Marcus Morris probably won't hit ridiculous shots in the fourth quarter.
Oh my, he's a ridiculous shot maker, like just crazy stuff.
And it happened in Detroit a little bit too, and it kind of went under the radar because it was in Detroit. But I don't think it was last season. It was a season before that. He really started off hot in Detroit, and he was hitting a ton of tough shots, and then he cooled off. Like, Marcus Morris definitely has in his game just about finding that consistency.
Oh yeah, he's an irrational confidence guy, which sometimes can be a good thing.
It's funny, and going into the postseason, Markieff has always been kind of referred as the better brother, the better twin, and we've been talking about Marcus a lot more.
Yeah, I would take Marcus over Markieff. It's close, but I would take Marcus.
I would say it's definitely tough. I think
it's close.
Yeah, Corey had tweeted out a poll on the OTG account, and someone said, it depends on the night, and that's honestly what it feels like. Like, true. One night it's the good twin, it's the bad twin. Like, maybe they're just switching on us and we don't know.
That would be the greatest stunt in the history of the world.
All right, moving on. Pels Blazers, maybe the best series so far in the playoffs. Pelicans surprising everybody, picked up another W in Portland, 111-102, taking the series lead 2-0. How surprised are you about the Pelicans taking a 2-0 lead?
I'm pretty surprised. I thought this would be a competitive series. I picked the Blazers to win, which looks wrong in 6, but I love just the Pelicans' mentality. They were like, we're playing with house money in game 2. The pressure's on them. Let's not go for the split. And just their tenacity, especially on defense, has been unreal. They're not letting Damian Lillard breathe. And the lack of ball movement now is kind of starting to be evident for Portland. They kind of remind me of the old Raptors team.
Yeah, that's a great comparison.
2 great guards, but just no assists, and they just force McCollum and Lillard to hit tough shots. And Holiday is one of the few guards in the league who's big enough, long enough, and has good enough instincts that he can hang with Lillard. And then Davis is just a one-man wrecking crew, and he's just going to snuff out every little pick and roll. And he's not even guarding Aminu. Like, Aminu hit 4 threes, and the Pelicans were just like, so. They're just going to make sure we're not going to let the guards beat us. And then on the other end, playoff Rondo has been great. As I wrote about today, I think Mirotic has been the X factor. He gives that like kind of Ryan Anderson kind of spacing where he just stands 3 feet behind the 3-point line and just drills it.
And with a guy like Anthony Davis, that's amazing to get that extra spacing, pulling that other big out there. It just makes his life so much better. And just a shout out to Evan. He did a great piece on OTGbasketball.com about this series. Check that out. But you mentioned it. Holiday has been dominant. This is some of the best basketball he's played in his career, offensively, defensively. His fingerprints have been on the game. AD is killing it. Obviously, he had that huge third quarter where it felt like he threw down like 5 dunks. And the weird thing about Dame is that he's trying to attack Jrue Holiday and Anthony Davis in the pick and roll sometimes, and it really doesn't make sense. Attacking somebody else on the floor not named Anthony Davis or Jrue Holiday, and you'll probably have more success.
Yeah, they tried a couple times to run him off like double screens along the baseline just to get him free. But the problem is New Orleans just has no respect for anyone else. Like they tried to play Zach Collins more, and he ended up taking 7 threes, and New Orleans just let him.
They're wide open.
Yeah, wide open. And I think that's why Portland may have to go a little bit smaller. This is a really bad series for Nurkic, really bad. So I would try Aminu at center, even Markless at the 4. Maybe get Connaughton some more burn for a little shooting. They're going to have to get creative just to open up a little more room for their 2 guards.
Yeah, and on the other end of the floor, so like the opposite for the Pelicans, they do a great job. They have a great passer in Rondo. Holiday's been passing well, and then Anthony Davis out there, Mirotic spacing the floor. If it's not each one more, it's Miller or Clark, somebody who can shoot the three ball, and really that's someone that the Blazers have to respect. And on the other end, like you said, it's like the Pelicans are going all in on stopping Dame and CJ, and they don't really, especially Dame, and they don't really care about anybody else, and nobody's really stepped up enough to make them worry. Like they had I would say Portland's bench was pretty good in the first half of game 2, but then it kind of cooled off a little bit. I think, like you said, Zach Collins, he's played some good minutes. He's a guy I think I'll probably get more. And if he could hit the three ball, it would be big for the Blazers.
It would be huge. And yeah, their bench, I liked Harkless a lot in game 2. And obviously we talked, he's way better than Evan Turner. And I think he'll likely start in game 3, which will help. Portland's got to keep hitting offensive glass too. That's probably their one advantage.
Yeah, especially playing Mirotic big minutes. Like he's a solid rebounder, but size-wise, like they have guys that can kind of outwork him. And if Anthony Davis is going to have to play 40-plus minutes, you got to make him pay down low and attack the boards.
Exactly. But I mean, the Pelicans starting 5 is really good. We haven't talked about each one more. I think he's been fantastic too.
Underappreciated all year, probably.
Definitely. He's a really good just surprise. He's just a guy who knows how to play, like a surprise cutter, good shooter, solid defender. I've liked him a lot in this series. And then Holiday is just on another level right now. And he had that huge left-hand slam and had just the craziest look in his eye afterwards.
He's just in a different mindset right now. It's just like the confidence is there. He understands what he's doing. And having success against a guard like Dame Lillard and CJ, I think only kind of boosts that for you going on in the playoffs. What do you expect to see in game 3? Does Portland get the W and kind of make this a series, or the Pels looking for a smooth win in round 1?
Well, the Portland is going to give it all they got, and the Pelicans will get their best effort because Portland's on the brink. I actually think Portland will win tonight, even though I think now New Orleans will win this series. I think Portland will make some adjustments. I think, maybe Holiday, Rondo, and their jumpers may cool a little bit for one game. It should be close because it's really a bad matchup for Portland, and I think it should be another entertaining game. But I'll go Portland close in a tough, gritty, kind of save their season kind of win.
How many for Dame? Dame Dollar.
I'll say like around 25. Bounce back a bit, but it's still a tough matchup for him to, explode.
Yeah, I think they're going to probably need CJ to step up. He's obviously getting a lot of attention, but Dame's getting more, I think. And this is an area CJ's had some shots where he's missed or he's, made a bad decision, in my opinion, and some of the passing or the shot attempts he's gone for. So I think he's a guy that really just needs to play big. And like you said, Nurkic really can't do anything against AD. Like size-wise, yeah, he can post him up, but defensively, he's just going to get cooked, and he's pretty much allowing AD to shoot mid-range jumpers for free.
I would go bold and bring Nurkic off the bench, which I know is surprising. And I
actually like it, but I was just probably too scared to say
it. I'm not sure if Terry Stotts has the cojones to do so, but that's what I would do.
Yeah, it's definitely something that you have to consider. And then it kind of allows Nurkic to come in with a lot of energy and attack. Sometimes for bigs, especially guys that size, like having your energy and be able to just eat on the boards is huge.
I think it would, and you're right about McCollum too. He missed some good looks, but he needs to attack a little bit more.
Yeah, I think there's a few times where he went for, a weird teardrop instead of just kind of going full out to the rim and getting, that layup and going off the glass. But let's talk about LeBron.
Oh, God.
The LeBrons versus the Pacers, not even the Cavs anymore. It's the LeBrons. 100-97, evened up the series. LeBron dropped 20 in the first quarter, 46 in the game, and he just could not be stopped. The Pacers had no answer, and that's what I said on the preview pod for that series. Like, what are they going to do with LeBron? And they really have nothing to do against him. Yeah, people have been saying, like, oh, Bogdanovich has been playing pretty good defense, but in theory, like, he's been okay, and the Pacers have been sending a lot of help his way. At the end of the day, they don't have anybody that can slow down LeBron.
No, they don't. And LeBron was like, that was one of the best games ever by anyone in terms of efficiency.
Yeah, Super Saiyan LeBron.
I mean, it just showed, but the concerning thing for Cleveland is they won by 3, and after they got, and no one else did anything. Luckily they benched Jeff Green. That was good, and only played him 13 minutes, and I like the more Corver minutes, but
Korver was big, low key. He had a really solid game, and it wasn't just shooting; it was spacing the floor a little bit, making a few hustle plays. I think he had a big steal on Thad Young. Like it's just Korver out there as a guy, like you kind of mentioned each one more. Korver's another guy that just knows how to play ball.
Exactly, and I would continue to start him. Even more than Rodney Hood because he had another big strip on Miles Turner at the end. He's a tough guy. He just gets it. But George Hill just looks washed. J.R. Smith looks washed. And
It's
it's just
sad.
like it is sad, and it's just like you wonder what their best answers are. And just I like the Nance, Love, LeBron, and then besides that, maybe Corver, and then at point guard, I think Jose Calderon might be their best option.
It's really crazy, but I think like Jose just knows kind of what to do. And also another like telling thing about this Cavs thing, maybe I'm looking too much into it, but LeBron caught, I don't even know if it was like a super hard foul, but Sabonis like wrapped him up and threw him to the ground, got called for the flagrant. And you only saw one Cavs player go over there and kind of like have his back, and it was Nance, and he gave him like a small nudge. Like in the past, I feel like some of the other Cavs teams might have shown a little bit more enthusiasm and been like, yo, don't touch LeBron like that, and they get a little bit more skirmish. But it was really like a whole bunch of nothing, and that's your best player putting on, like you said, a performance for all time.
Yeah, I mean, what he did was incredible, and you're right about that because I mean, these guys just met each other a couple months ago, and they're figuring things out on the fly. And the Pacers have been underrated all year. I love their competitive spirit. They get up into you on defense, and I just love their tenacity. They're not scared of Cleveland. I thought this would be a very tough series for Cleveland. I had them in 6, but now, especially Love gets a little shaken up. The Pacers can win this thing.
Yeah, they definitely could. And Oladipo last night, if he doesn't sit in the first quarter. I know he got the 2 fouls. A lot of people complained about them sitting him, and that's when the Cavs really went on their tear. You know, Oladipo plays more minutes in this game. The Pacers might come out with a W.
Definitely, and I did not like the decision to sit him for that long. I think you just trust him and you ride him because with him you're legit. And then you look at the non-Oladipo minutes, and when he missed, they're a totally different team. He's the engine.
Yeah, Oladipo plus 11 in this one. Another guy, Miles Turner had some nice moments more so in the first half. I know I was talking to Corey a little bit, and he mentioned that he felt like he was hesitating in the fourth quarter, and he's a guy that I feel like just needs to be more aggressive in the series. He has that size and length advantage over the Cavs. They don't really have a big that can match up with him. He needs to be a little bit tougher.
He does, and the Cavs have been hiding weaker defenders on it, and Turner has hit some threes, which is big, but he's not been able to punish them inside. Like Corver was on Miles Turner for a stretch. It's just like, and he's just been standing in the corner, so they got to find a way to get him more involved, which I know Pacers fans have heard a million times.
Yeah, and I think it has to come from a little bit of the team, the coaching staff, because it doesn't necessarily seem like Turner's the type of guy that's going to make it happen himself. He kind of needs a push from somebody to kind of get in that aggressive mindset.
Yeah, absolutely, and I think they should go to him early in Game 3 because if he gets going, they're a totally different team.
Exactly, and then they have the shooters to space the floor as well. And like we said, Oladipo has just been, they don't have an answer for LeBron. Well, the Cavs don't have an answer for Oladipo.
No, not at all. I mean, they've tried George. I mean, Oladipo is just so much faster than everyone.
He's got just that like quick step. It's just so quick. Like the dribble, it's just like all of a sudden he puts you to sleep and then bang.
Yeah, he drives past 2 defenders regularly, and the Cavs are just, don't know what to do. They can only put LeBron on him in clutch time situations. So it may be.
And it's even a tough defense for LeBron. Like as great as he is a defender, like he's not the fastest player at this age anymore. He's obviously can lock him up when he has to, but still it's asking a lot when he has to drop 46 just to get a win by 3.
Exactly. Yeah, LeBron right now, I'm sure, is not the happiest camper that he did to do all of that just to win Game 2 at home in the first round.
Yeah, exactly. He's probably sitting trying to get some rest. He's like, I think it was like, I want to say off the top of my head, LeBron had 46, Korver had 12, Love had like 17, and then the rest was just like the rest of the team had like 27 or something combined. So they just need more out of other guys like Jordan Clarkson, maybe Rodney Hood. Like these are guys that can score points in the NBA. They need to do something.
Yeah, at least one of them has to just.
That's all they need too.
Yeah,
They just need
just give
Clarkson
them a
to get
shot
it. Yeah, get Clarkson to have one of those like 20-point games off the bench where he's super efficient. That happens sometimes. Like get in transition, it's a possibility, but it's like I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's a team chemistry, the lack of playoff experience, but something's weird with this Cavs team. What happens in game 3?
I think the Cavs will win game 3, actually. And I think we'll get a random good performance, like as you said, from like a Clarkson or a Hood or somebody. But then I think the Pacers will kind of even back up in game 4.
I agree. I think they'll leave Indiana and the series will be tied 2-2. I don't know if it's game 3 or game 4 the Cavs win, but I think they do definitely win one of them. Moving on to another.
The Pacers win game 3.
Yeah, it would be a ton of fun. And if the Cavs got upset in the first round, the East would just be totally up for grabs. Moving on, though, to Utah and OKC. This is a great series as well. The Jazz pulled off the W 102-95, tying up the series 1-1. Donovan Mitchell, huge in the fourth quarter. OKC's stars, Westbrook, Melo, and PG were terrible in the fourth quarter. So what were your thoughts on this one?
Loved the Jazz response in game 2 in this one. I love that they went through Favors early in the half and targeted Melo and just made him work. And Favors really had a great first half and kind
maybe
of
one of the best games of Favors' career, in my opinion. Honestly, he did so many things correctly. He, shot the 3-ball. He attacked inside, 8 offensive rebounds. It was huge.
Yeah, and they have to find – Melo is just so bad on defense. They have to find a way to capitalize on that. And then Rudy Gobert, I thought, had a really nice bounce-back game after a bad game 1. OKC, I think Adams is hurt, and you can tell, and that's very concerning. He just doesn't – he did not look right. And then, as we talked about earlier before the show, Rubio hit 5 threes, and OKC was just daring to shoot them. And if Utah gets that, OKC's in real trouble.
Yeah, it definitely. And Mitchell's just been kind of, ghosting past everybody, even Paul George. And sometimes and Paul George is a good defender, but sometimes his defensive positioning is just terrible. Like there's a few times where he just put himself in position to fail.
Yeah, Mitchell, in the fourth quarter was ridiculous and finished with 28. And I guess he's not that injured. There was concerns about the toe. And you're right. Paul George even had trouble in the second half, and I wonder if they go to him sooner or they keep sticking in Ingles, who had a nice bounce-back game too, and kind of just let Mitchell eat and try to take away Ingles' passing and not let the others get involved. But George is going to have to step it up, and he kind of came back to earth after a great game 1 on both ends. And then in the fourth, their offense was just awful.
Yeah, I saw a tweet. I don't know if it's 100% confirmed, but it said that Westbrook, Melo, and PG shot 0 of 14 in the fourth quarter.
Yes, that is true, and a lot of them were just forced a lot of bad looks.
I feel like OKC still doesn't have an offense at this point in the season, and like all their when their offense is cooking, it's because they're getting easy points in transition or like oops or something. Like you said, the Adams thing is concerning because that pick and roll with Westbrook is probably one of their best bets to score, and they did go to it a little bit more in the second half, but offensively they just need to find a rhythm. And the thing with Melo, like you mentioned, Melo's shooting 6 of 18 from the field, 2 of 9 from 3, 17 points, and he's getting killed on D. At what point are you like, maybe I should cut his minutes down and play somebody else that can actually put in some defensive effort?
Well, I liked they didn't do much game 2. Game 1, they played him with the bench a little more, and I think that's probably his best time to play. But you're right, overall, his minutes should be a little cut because even when he can't handle the Jazz when they go big, and then even Jarekbo gave some nice minutes for Utah. And I picked Utah to win this series, and I'm feeling really good now going back to Utah because I think just their defense can slow down the Thunder. And then on offense with Mitchell, I think they have enough. Utah, and now with Adams hurt, should be feeling pretty confident.
Yeah, I picked OKC, I think, in 7. I'm feeling a little nervous, but I want to see some adjustments defensively from OKC. They still, Roberson went down, their defense took a hit, but they were still finished the season top 10 defensive efficiency. So there's an area where they need to step up. Slow down Mitchell. Rubio's not going to shoot, make 5 threes every game. So I think they should be able to kind of put some more pressure on Mitchell, make somebody else beat them.
Yeah, and Paul George I wouldn't be surprised if he starts the game on Mitchell. They'll dare Rubio to shoot again, and they'll have to, he'll have to do it twice in a row, and that'll be interesting.
It sounds
But yeah,
crazy to say this, but maybe you do something where you force the ball out of the rookie's hands, force the ball out of Donovan Mitchell's hands because they don't really, Rubio can create, but as a scorer, he's not as gifted as Mitchell. And in terms of like Derek Favors and Rudy Gobert, they're not going to create a ton for themselves. Joe Ingles can get a little bit shy when it comes to scoring the ball. So if I'm OKC, I'm just like, I can't let this Mitchell kid grab 28 points again. Like their offense is not that smooth. We should be able to kind of take him out of the game, and then, it'll help us get more transition points as well.
yeah, and it'll be interesting to see if they start trapping a little more. And Paul George is usually, as you kind of mentioned, position. He kind of likes playing the passing lanes a little more than just pressing up on the ball, but he may be forced to and just try to slow Mitchell down because, I mean, in the fourth, I mean, what he did for a rookie is just incredible.
Yeah, and it's great, and it's nothing to take away from him, but from OKC side too, it's like, you're letting a rookie do this to you. This is first playoff series. We're supposed to be this
Right.
team that was designed to beat Golden State, make a deep playoff run. Maybe we didn't have a great regular season, but we're supposed to at least get to the second round and maybe lose to Houston or Golden State, but we might not even get past the first round.
No, yeah, they need to step it up, and Game 3 in Utah, that's a very tough place to play in, and it's going to be
You
a
think
hostile
Westbrook
environment.
comes up big in Game 3?
Westbrook?
Yeah.
Well, I know he'll bring a lot of tenacity and aggression because he's Russell Westbrook, but with him, it's about shot selection for me. How often he relies on mid-range jumpers, how many threes he takes. I like in Game 1 he really attacked Gobert early, and I like when he does that to start the game. I think it kind of sets the tone, and maybe you get a couple fouls on Gobert.
I think
But
that's what happened in Game 1 too. I think Gobert got 2 early fouls, and that was,
yeah.
Westbrook attacking, like you said.
Yeah, and he needs to do that from the jump each game, every way possible, because that's their best chance.
And moving on to our last Game 2, Rockets and T-Wolves, 102-82, Rockets 2-0 lead. This wasn't really much of a basketball game, especially a playoff game. It was just it felt like a preseason feel to it. The T-Wolves were just terrible. They were still in the game, and then it's like they gave up in the second quarter. And all the Rockets really had to do was just improve their three-point percentage from Game 1, and they kind of coasted. Chris Paul was awesome. James Harden struggled, but it really didn't matter. And Karl-Anthony Towns has been rough.
I mean, Karl-Anthony Towns it's a mystery, and it's a combination of Tibbs not feeding him enough and him not asserting himself enough and demanding the ball. That's a whole other issue. But then their effort in the second and third quarter was horrendously poor. The Rockets, they still didn't even shoot. I mean, they were better than Game 1, but overall not that great. But, I mean, Harden was 2 for 18, but Chris Paul responded, had a great game, and then their shooters got live. Ariza, Gerald Green had big games, and they wiped the floor for Minnesota, and it got ugly. I turned it off.
Like you said, Evan, it was just like it wasn't even worth watching. And it's kind of funny in a sense that the Rockets offered the T-Wolves a shot in the series. Game 1 and Game 2,
Yeah.
They gave them a great opportunity to maybe even go to Minnesota up 2-0 with the way they played. And they really just don't care. Like their team is looking bad. Obviously, Jimmy Butler being banged up really hurts, but
Yeah.
Disappointing. The Timberwolves had that long drought from being in the playoffs, and then they have a performance like this where a sweep is looking like a real possibility because I know it'll help that they're at home, but the Rockets offense isn't going to – I said it in the last show. I didn't think they'd be as bad in Game 2. They're not going to be as bad as Game 1 or in Game 2 as in Game 3. Game 3, they should be able to kind of pick it up and score even more points. Like, you don't expect James Harden to go 2 of 19 again.
No, you don't. And in Game 3, I believe they're getting Ryan Anderson back, and he's killed the Wolves this year. And he unleashes their super spacey Anderson at the 5 lineups, which just destroy people offensively.
Especially with the way Towns is playing, it's not like you're super concerned about getting eaten alive either.
Exactly. He's doing nothing in the post or down low. And then with Thibodeau, he just doesn't make a lot of adjustments. Like, I would play Jang less. I would play Bajika more.
Yeah.
I would play Tyus Jones. I would cut Crawford minutes, but he's just so stuck in his ways. And then, as you said, Butler is probably 75% right now. So it could be a sweep. I gave him 1 to start the series, but I'm concerned if he'll even get that now.
Yeah, I think I went with a sweep because I just the T-Wolves sound good. Everything sounds so good about the roster, and then you look at the stats, you watch them play, and it's just there's something wrong with this team. They're just not meshing. They have way too much talent to play at the level that they play at.
For sure. And then we haven't even talked about Wiggins, who's just so blah.
Yeah, I wouldn't. I feel like it feels even more and more likely he's a guy that gets moved this summer, especially if Minnesota wants to make some like alterations to their roster, add some different pieces. Like they need to get rid of that contract, and he's a guy that could provide some value to a team in a different situation.
Yeah, and this is probably the summer to do it. It's probably their best chance. And I have a sneaky feeling that Tibbs actually might be fired this season.
One of our writers on OTG, Brad Bierman, he wrote an article at the end of the season, and he kind of pointed out all the things that have been terrible about the TWolves this season. And, it said, Tibbs definitely could be out, overplaying some of the young guys, overplaying Towns, Wiggins, Butler, Teague. These guys are playing too many minutes in the regular season. Defensively, he's supposed to be a defensive-minded coach, and they've essentially been trash on D. So it's just not a good situation in Minnesota. Maybe they give him one more year because of the Butler injuries, but still, I wouldn't be a huge fan of. I think I would actually be a huge fan of them making the move because I think they just need someone more offensive-minded to unlock some of these guys.
Yeah, I feel like Thibodeau is just too much of a 2004 coach, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. Even his defensive, he doesn't respect the three ball the way it should be respected, and that's something you see a lot from older guys or older coaches sometimes, where they're just stuck in their ways and they don't want to adjust.
And if they end in a sweep, I think it could be a high possibility.
Yeah, I wouldn't be surprised at all.
Mm-hmm.
All right, that wraps up for today. Thank you for hopping on, Evan. As always, thank you everybody for listening. You can check out the NBA Outlet on iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, OTGBasketball.com, Google Play, and now airing on Dash Radio. Also, be sure to check us out on OTGBasketball.com with a ton of great playoff content.